This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
On the Track is a web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
So what's in today's show, Mr. John?
Well, Hennis, in this week's episode, which is the first one for 2024, we go across the Atlantic to Canada, where we visit our old friend Dave Scott from CFZ Canada, who is talking to a lovely and fascinating Bigfoot expert.
I really like the old credits.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year and welcome to the first episode of On the Track for 2024. My name's John Downs and goodness me, something extraordinary is happening over there.
It was better in the 70s. It was better in the 70s. It was better in the 70s. Stand-up comedians were better in the 70s. They were better in the 70s. You had Dave Allen and Mike Harding, and you didn't have Mish Kumar or James Acaster. Yeah, it was better in the 70s.
Well, I thought it was better in the 70s for all sorts of other reasons. And to be quite honest, I've never heard of either of the two comedians that Ken Jevons was excoriating about. But that doesn't really matter, because I'm not supposed to be up and hip and up with the kids, or is it down with the kids, and understanding all the latest bits of pop culture, because I am very nearly 65, I am an old man, I'm a grandfather with a long grey beard, and I don't care anyway, really. So, well, now we have established, and now my beard's all gone wonky, now we've established that it was, after all, better in the 1970s. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to the latest episode of On the Track, the first episode for 2024. Just in case you are new to this show, and I hope you are new to this show, because I want as many new people to watch it as well as the old people. And I'm not just talking about people like me who are old, I'm talking about people who've been watching the show for a while, no matter what their age is. But just in case you didn't know, On the Track is a bi-weekly show about hard science, weird shit, surreality. And I don't know what my thumb's doing sticking out there, but it's probably doing something else. If you want to know what surreality is, well, who shall we ask this week? Let's ask Oliver Cromwell.
Surreality is what happens when, for some peculiar, inexplicable part of artistic hubris, somebody brings back the Lord Protector of England to explain what surreality is 350 years after he died, was buried, and then was exhumed only to be post-mortemly executed again for crimes against the monarchy. Bah!
And much to my chagrin as a loyal monarchist, there is a family connection between my family and Oliver Cromwell. Look at this. a bloke called John Downs, who was my relative, ancestor, I think is probably the word, although I don't think he was a direct ancestor, but he was from the same family. A bloke called John Downs was the youngest person to sign Charles I's death warrant. Whoops. In the autumn of last year, our Canadian representative, David Scott, who's a jolly nice fella and who's appeared on this show several times, sent us a long series of interviews that he carried out with Canadian BigFoot expert Robyn Moonshadow. This is the second part.
In the 1800s, a little boy went to fetch water at this location, and he saw what he described as a wild woman. Not exactly a Bigfoot, but a woman who was covered in hair and had long hair down to her ankles, drinking water out of this waterfall on one of the streams down below. She didn't try to hurt this little boy or anything, and he just scooped up his water and went along his way. And there's stories like that all over the area. Like, you could say, sure, it was somebody who didn't shave their legs or arms or whatever, but apparently this was a particularly hairy lady. And with the length of her hair, she would have never cut her hair a day in her life. So, and fascinating stories like that all over this particular area about wild people. But again, nothing there. Now, second to last day, we went to an area called Rimrock, and the acorns are falling, and it's really cool to hear that and see that, because you're not sure at first, did I get something thrown at me? And the acorns are dropping, and that's happened before. I'm like, oh, it's acorns. Put a hat on so you don't get hit in the head, because they come down pretty hard. And my partner goes one way and I go the other, and I get the feeling I'm being watched, which for Bigfoot, that's an indication. You feel like you're being watched, and you're not sure where it comes from. Now, I will push my luck. I'm a big believer in observe and not disturb, because I want to watch their behaviors. So I push my luck and I go a little bit further. And okay, I know something's here. I'm not going to get a reaction. So, okay, let's head back and we'll meet up over there. And we met up, and there's just a quick drop on this cliff face, just straight. It's got trees coming up and things like that and bushes, but it's a straight drop off. It's a cliff right down into the water. And it's, to me, it's 1,000,000 feet, but it's probably just a couple hundred. And yeah, I'm not going near the edge. And no, because I'm afraid of heights and I get pretty bad vertigo. And then all these pictures that you'll see where we're at any mountain location or anything that has a drop off that's more than, maybe 100 feet. Yeah, I'm not going near the edge. There's just no way. But we get to this meeting spot. Okay, well, we'll meet back up there. You go this way and I'll go this way, and we'll meet back up here. So we meet back up there, and then there's this heck of a racket going on, and it's coming from where this cliff edge is. And a deer is not going to climb a cliff and up into trees and go around. And I'm like, okay, let's just sit and be quiet. And my partner has camo on with a bright orange hat. I'm like, take your hat off, crouch down by the bushes. I'll hide behind the tree. We'll see what happens. And for a few minutes, we got some really, really odd noises going on. It sounded like a chimp squealing, and like when a gorilla pounds its chest and it makes that noise. And I'm like, what is this? And then it goes quiet, and it was quiet for 10 minutes. And okay, we're not going to get any more. So we get up to leave, and there's a bit more of a ruckus. I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. but we might be a bit too close. Let's back up. So we go over to this area that's a bit up on a hill and went facing down into the woods. And then we get all kinds of noises when we get up there and sitting still and quiet. And I'm trying to go through, okay, what can make these noises? Because, sometimes you may think it's something when it's not, and it's something else. And, okay, so we know that there's deer in the area and there's elk in the area. Well, what we were hearing wasn't a deer or elk blow, because they're nasally. And, well, I hear the deer go off all the time here. And there wasn't like the usual huffing and puffing like you'll get if you're too close to an elk or a deer and they're telling you to back off. So we get a few more minutes of these noises, and it really does sound chimp-like. And we didn't see it, we only heard it, but it was making a heck of a racket. But we sat there for a few more minutes, and then some people came in, and then it all went quiet. And I was like, well, darn it, because we could have seen something if it wasn't for the people. But everywhere we went, even on these little isolated trails, there were people everywhere. So, and in this location here, it was starting to get dark and everything was quieting down. And I think that's probably why we did get what we got. Because you had to be out of this particular park forest area at, 8 o'clock at night? And a lot of areas are like that. So I come to the conclusion that there's too many people during the day. We're not going to find anything. And when things start to get quiet and it starts to get dark, then the animals come out. Like, we didn't even see a deer track. So the only thing that we found was a very large canine print, but I just believe that that's just a domesticated dog. But other than that, yeah, it was just very odd. So we will try again in a few years to go back to this location and stay as long as we can and see what happens. Now, I've been back for, oh my goodness, just a week and a day, so I haven't had time to go over the vocals yet. I collect all kinds of sounds and I do comparison audio because each mammal has a specific sound rate. And even the sounds they make may have a particular picture to them. I'm sorry, I can't remember the word. And some people do send their stuff to me, like hogs, for example, have a unique arch in their vocal pattern. So it's very neat. You might think it's something else, but no, this is a hog. And a friend of mine has actually, it was a cougar, mountain lion, came very close to their recorder and did their throat growl to it. And it's very bizarre sound. And I knew it was a big cat. And so I showed him, yeah, this is a big cat, but it was very unique because it was so close that there was almost a rumble to it. So, and that's what I do for my own sounds, because you can't always find somebody who's willing to do these things for you. I believe it was my second trip down to the south. We got some hair off of a tree in some sap. And, it's just a couple of bits of hair. I have more now. Same thing. And I think, well, it's probably a bear, where a bear scratches its shoulders on a tree like they like to do. And I come back and I'm doing my own comparison under a microscope. And this is very unique hair. Okay, it's more like human hair, but nobody's going to be out there rubbing their hair in the sap on a tree. And like I said, it's very unique because human hair is made out of what we could call scales. So pretend my finger was a piece of hair and it's like fish scales up on it. And people have different kinds of hair, damaged hair, colored hair, and you can see this within the inside of the hair. Now this hair, it has just a straight black shaft on the inside of the hair. But what I thought was pretty cool about this hair is that the scales are so tight on it, it's practically waterproof. So when I clean the hair off, with water. It did take a bit with the Q-tip, but it was just running right off of it. And the hair, and all the hair is like this. It's like in 3 colors. So it goes from dark black charcoal to a brown to some like a ginger colored very tip of it. And it was very unique. So it wasn't a bear. And so I ran through what all the local wildlife was, and some non-local wildlife. And there's nothing that's like this hair at all. So I'm like, I might have Bigfoot hair. So I called around to a bunch of places who do DNA analysis. And so I called a university up here, and we go through all the rigmarole of blah, blah, blah. And okay, I try to be fair. They don't know that I know what they're talking about. And, well, what do you think it is? And me and my honest mouth, I'm just like, well, I think it's a Bigfoot. And then there's a pause. And another pause. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go. And he says, well, if it is a Bigfoot, we have nothing to compare it to. And I said, yes, I realize that. But if it comes back as an unknown something, that's something to work with. And the guy shut down. This is the guy that runs the DNA analysis in this university. And that was the end of the conversation. I didn't even get a chance to say anything else about it. Now, to me, what does that matter? I'm the one paying for it. So can't we do it anyways? But no, he shut down and he didn't want to talk about it anymore. So how can you get a comparison analysis if you don't have a comparison analysis? And you're not even willing to check this hair for me, because it's just silly to me. And what if it's not Bigfoot? What if it's something else? And I'm mistaken. I'd still like to know. But nope, that was the end of the conversation. And he didn't want to talk to me at all. And I'm back to this, what does it matter? I'm the one paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, certainly not beaver hair, because this is in the middle of the forest and there's no lakes, rivers, streams, or creeks around.
How high was it?
Pardon me?
How high off the ground was it?
About 5 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and some of the hair was a bit longer than the others. Like some was about, let me get in the camera, this long, and then you had a couple pieces that were about that long. So I figured that would be back hair.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the Patty video, you can see this length of the hair going down her back at different angles. So this is what I figured. And that would probably be the most logical explanation of why the hair was, that particular spot in the first place, because they were rubbing their back.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that was the end of the story with that guy. And then I was told later, well, you should have did a dead test or something. But they're still going to call you because you have to provide your information, and then they'll ask you the same questions he asked me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you think this is? And I'm not going to lie about it. I don't see the point. If this is what I think it is, then that's what it is. So, and I'm back to this, I don't understand, just test it.
You might want to take your samples to the university in Peterborough, because they have a Sasquatch program.
Okay, I'll try that. I'll actually write it down and try that.
Yeah,
and see what they say about it.
More open, yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid that some of my hair might be degraded now, but I'll try it.
I know you're not that close to them because I know where you live.
Yeah,
roughly, but it's still, you could get there and back in a day and stay overnight if you have to.
Peterborough. That's about 45 minutes.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so, because when I get to Peterborough, I think I'm pretty much home. So, being from the valley, so.
Yeah, I mean, we could just jump on the 401 and just go on over there and then come back. Yeah. And it's actually funny because the place that called for the DNA, they have a program there as well, and I know some people are doing a television show now on TV about it.
Yeah. That's what made me think. Well, they were going to be much more open to it because they're already funding this, and that's the university they're funding it. So. far as I
Yeah,
know.
I could talk directly to a couple of the people there because I know who to contact.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will give that a try.
Yeah.
But what people say and do are two different things. So, and
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you know, to do what we do, you got to kind of have a thick skin and not get offended by anything and just let certain things go because you know that they don't know, and either they're not willing or they just don't want to.
Yeah.
And for all kinds of reasons.
Well,
Maybe
they're
they're
afraid to put
scared.
themselves out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, for a lot of us, a Bigfoot is a relic hominid.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
When we were on COVID lockdown, you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. I couldn't even go to any national forests because they were so booked.
Yeah.
You can't go to an area for just one day. That's never enough time.
No, it's not.
If you get lucky, sure, but not for what we do. But so I spent those 2 years learning physical anthropology.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot, especially about our ancient ancestors. Like, you know, we lost our body here millions of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And a Bigfoot still has theirs. So that makes Bigfoot very freaking old.
Yeah.
And you know, the reason that I do this, well, I've always loved animals, but these are hominids.
Yeah.
These other things that I do, they're hominids, but they deserve to be protected because
Exactly. Yeah.
The fact of the matter is we really don't know how many there are. I mean, if they were fast breeders, they'd be like deer and they wouldn't really be elusive.
Yeah.
And I mean, even within the ape family, let's say orangutan, for example, they don't have many babies.
No.
And there's always a high rate of mortality. I mean, like if they have 4 babies in a lifetime, they're lucky because they will raise them till they're 18 years old and they will only have that one baby. It could be like that.
Yeah.
And we don't know the mortality rate of Bigfoot whatsoever. We don't know how long did they live for or birthing process. I mean, you assume it's like a female. Of course it would be. But a lot of ancient ancestor females had tilted uteruses, which makes giving birth extremely hard, and hours and days. So if it's like that, then there's that mortality rate too of baby and or mother.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
again, we don't know.
Yeah.
We can assume and guess and hypothesize, but we really don't know. Like with Bigfoot, there's are things that we know for certain, like they throw things at you. If you get too close, they would knock and they'll give off a smell, it seems, when you get closer or they get nervous.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, and they do smell, oh my goodness, and some smell worse than others. We were coming from a place called Brown Mountain to see some Brown Mountain lights. It's a natural phenomenon. And there's all kinds of legends and myths around it, which are quite nice. From everything from, warrior spirits to UFOs to all kinds of things like this. And I've seen them for myself. And when these lights come up, everything goes quiet. And it's weird and cool at the same time because there's bursts of light everywhere and they move across the sky and everything. And I could almost compare them to the Min lights in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we arrived at this place, there was like 50, 60 people there. And 5 people when this light show began. And it did a few minutes of a light show, and then these other people left. And then it started up the light show again. This went on for a while. So when it was done by the time we left, it was like 11 o'clock, maybe a bit later, but it was around that time. And everything is pitch black dark. Our batteries are dead. We're not thinking Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we went there for the lights. And you wouldn't even think of Bigfoot in this location, maybe too many people. But pitch black dark. We don't have flashlights. I know, stupid of me. Should have known better.
We've all done it.
Yeah. Yeah. And my phone is dead. So I couldn't use the flashlight on my phone. But walk up the path, and it's a cement path. And I don't know, a quarter of the way to the parking lot, we get hit with the smell. And again, not thinking Bigfoot. And I'm thinking, oh, that's that big cat urine.
Yeah.
And oh, maybe it's a bit too musty. And then we hear people talking in the parking lot. Well, that's odd. You can hear the two of them talking from a distance, can't make out what they're saying. And then off to the left of me, something huge moves in the bushes. Of course, I can't see it. And it made me jump into my partner. If he had a pocket, I would have been in it. And the dog starts acting so weird. She's got her head down and she's peering like through the darkness. She's wrapping her leash around me, so I'm stepping out of it as we're walking, and the hair, that line of hair that the dog has down her back, it's standing up. And then I clued in, oh, it's a Bigfoot. And then we got hit with that smell again. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a Bigfoot.
Yep.
I'm like, that's a Bigfoot back there. And I'm like, flashlight, and our cameras, like, my phone is dead. I only brought one battery for my GoPro for the lights. It's dead. Of course it's dead. Everything. Nothing. We got nothing. And I'm like, it figures. And I was like, oh, it's almost infuriating as figures. Because I was like 10 feet, maybe 15 tops from that Bigfoot. We just walked right past it. And then it seems like it was getting a little aggressive, just a little bit, because the smell got just stronger and stronger. And there was more noises behind us. And I was like, okay, I think we aggravated it. Probably got too close, maybe scared it. Because, well, we weren't expecting it. It probably wasn't expecting us either. And we weren't making noise. We were just walking. So we get hit with the smell, and it was worse. Okay, we're almost to the parking lot. Don't run, just walk a bit faster. I don't want to upset it because, we don't know what it's going to do. So, okay, we'll walk faster. And the dog is still acting up and wrapping herself around us. And we're just stepping over the leash as we go. And she would stop and look behind us. And yeah, it's still there. And we get closer and closer to the parking lot. And we're still hearing people talking, but now it's a deeper in the voices. And as we're approaching the parking lot, we heard a couple more times. Still can't make it out, which I'm finding weird. And there's nobody in the parking lot when we get there. Not a car, not a person, nobody. And I get in the passenger seat, and he rushes to get the dog in. And we sit there. I'm like, just wait a minute. Turn the lights on and look around. There's nobody here. And he's like, we're in the area where they like to talk. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Because I call it their jibber jabber. And that's what we were hearing. So there was at least 3 in that location. And of course, we didn't have nothing to record anything with. I was like, oh, it figures. He won't admit it, but my partner was scared. Where I'm finding, hey, this is really cool. He's like, okay. So our camping spot wasn't even 5 miles from this location. And then he made sure he shined the flashlight on the tent all night. And I kept saying, turn it off. That's what we're here for. And he goes out Bigfooting all the time.
Yeah.
And he's come pretty close quite a few times. And having the flashlight on the tent, I was like, no, just shut it off. And we got back, and I was up for hours, but nothing did happen after that. And I was thinking, we're down here, come down. I just kept thinking that all night. But but nothing happened. And the cicadas in this location were just loud. But
good indicators, though.
Oh yeah, because when everything goes quiet, something is around. Yeah. For me, this is just part of our culture. That it wasn't even I didn't even think twice about it's not real, because it's real. I'm First Nations Dene.
Yeah.
So we're brought up on all kinds of these stories about a Bigfoot and all kinds of things. Now, my people originally come from New Mexico, and my great, well, they're all grandmothers to me, came to Canada. So I do have a mix of both American and Canadian Indigenous culture. I'm here and I'm brought up with it. Like, we hear about the Wendigo as well.
Yeah.
And so when I saw a Bigfoot when I was 13 years old, of course, I already knew what it was. And I was already interested in all cryptozoological animals and critters, and even the human kinds, even as a kid, always. Because is always around animals all my life, always have a fascination with them. I went to school to be a veterinarian with a focus on animal behavior. Now, I didn't graduate because, this is a long time ago, and I ran out of money. My professors did try to help.
Yep.
But they couldn't do anything about it. Now, if I was to go back today, even if everything has changed, it would be different. But yeah, like I said, they did try, but you always retain all of that.
Yep.
And so I grew up on a milk farm, and my parents had tons and tons of acres, and it was at the bottom of a mountain. And so there's 500 acres with the mountains beyond that. So this was like my playground. I'm not an only child. There's 5 of us kids. And even on my oldest brother and cousin, they used to go out into the woods all the time, and they used to hear and see all kinds of odd things. But never a Bigfoot. They suspected lots of times from the noises, but they never saw one. So this was getting around supper time. So I had to head back. And I think it was probably September, because I remember school was going to get to start soon. And I had a pair of pom-pom socks. No, not everybody knows what they are, but they're little ankle socks with little pom-poms on the back.
I got
that was the
girls,
style.
I know what they are.
Yeah, that was the style. And this was in the 80s. That was the style then. I had to have a pair because they were cute. And even though I'm a bit of a tomboy. So I'm coming back, and the area's fenced off, the cows or whatnot. Now, at this time, we didn't have cows, though. And, I climb up the bit of a hill, and it's where the barbed wire fence will part easily. So that's where I want to go through. So I pull it apart, and I climb through, and the pom-pom sock got caught in one of the barbs. Don't want to rip them. They're brand new. My mother's going to kill me if I wreck my socks. So I turned around on one leg to pull it out gently. And that's when I saw him. He was about a 6-footer, and it was a male, standing in front of the tree. If my pom-pom didn't get stuck, I would never have saw him. But he was standing there. He wasn't doing anything. He was just staring at me, and I was staring at him because I was froze. I knew what it was, and I'm just staring at him. And you never forget. I didn't see his feet because the grass was tall, but he was just standing there in front of the tree, looking at me. I'm looking at him, and I couldn't tell you what was going through my mind besides, holy, you know what? That's a Bigfoot. That's a Bigfoot. That's a Bigfoot. You're seeing things, but that's a Bigfoot.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page, and check out our Patreon.
And there's the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little house, will tell you.
Don't forget to ring the notification bell, otherwise you won't be told when the next episode's gonna be.
And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it?
If you've been affected by any of the topics in today's episode, you can just bugger off, because we don't give a monkeys. Bloody well get a grip. Sort your own bloody problems out rather than ringing up somewhere.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of another episode, and the end of the first episode of 2024. I really need to apologise to David and to Robyn because they sent me this interview several months ago, and then we got taken over by events because we met Daniel, and we got all caught up with the saga of the events that have taken place in this little forest in North Cornwall. And somehow the fact that I had an interview with a Bigfoot researcher who's actually seen these things in Canada totally slipped my mind. So please forgive me, guys. That was a fascinating episode, as was the first one. And we're going to be back next week with the third part of the talk between the conversation between David and Robyn Moonshadow. What am I going to be doing Wednesday, I hear you ask? Well, I'm not sure about that. I haven't got that far. But before I get into remonstrating with Mr. McCrinnan, because I don't know if he's watched the show or not. Do I, Mr. McCrinnan? I want to say a big thank you to everybody but for whom this show wouldn't have been made, particularly Richard Freeman and my guests, David Scott and Robyn Moonshadow. I'd also like to thank my producer, Louis, and I'd like to thank Graham Inglis, who, as well as being Deputy Director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, is actually my carer, because as most of you know, I'm pretty badly disabled these days. One of the reasons that I have got bandages on my wrists, not because of anything sinister, but because it's New Year's Eve today as I'm filming this, and I went into the clinic today to have steroid injections in both wrists to try and make my hands work again, which would be lovely because of carpal tunnel syndrome means I can't play the guitar anymore, which is one of the things that really irritates me. So thank you, Graham. Thank you, Louis, my producer, and thank you to the lovely Gwyn Palmer, who is doing more and more and more of work, of the donkey work of the CFZ, and keeping things going, doing stuff that I'm no longer able to. By the way, one piece of advice I would like. If you look there, it looks like I've got a slice cut out of my moustache. It's not. It's the fact that most of my moustache is grey, like a lot of my beard is grey, but I've still got one little dark stripe in it, which looks most unpleasant, and I wish somebody could work out a way of dealing with it. And I'm mildly embarrassed about the fact that half my beard is grey and the other half is still dark. And the other day, Louis's mother said that my beard was looking very wispy. I think that's the word she used, and she's probably right. It looks very weird. I can't wait for it all to be grey so I can look nice and venerable. But I'm sidetracking. Like I said, I'm going to be back on Wednesday, and I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about, but I'll be back with David Scott and Robyn Moonshadow again next Saturday. So, Mr. McCrinnan, if you're there watching and joining in the live chat and all the other stuff which makes a silly old man, i.e. me, very happy, and I'll be there doing the live chat and all the other stuff I always do on a Saturday afternoon, I'll be seeing you.